So we've heard plenty of times in the past here on this broadcast, kids are supposed to be educated inside the classroom, not indoctrinated, right? But a prominent parents' rights organization issuing this, a stark warning about two of the top teachers unions in the country and how they're endangering our youth by pushing radical agendas upon their impressionable minds.
A statement from the American Parents Coalition reads the following. America's largest teachers unions, the National Education Association and the American Federation of Teachers, push radical political agendas that undermine educational fundamentals and parental rights. Contrary to their missions of, quote, excellence in public school education and high quality education, they divert resources from classrooms, override parents, and prioritize left-wing ideologies over kids' learning, well-being, and academic success.
And with that, we'll bring in Alleigh Marré. She is the executive director of the American Parents Coalition. Alleigh, good to see you, and thank you for coming on. Can you tell our viewers this morning or elaborate as to why your organization felt prompted to issue this warning against the National Education Association, which is led by Becky Pringle, and the American Federation of Teachers, that union led by Randi Weingarten?
Of course. So I'm a parent myself, and like many of the parents who our organization talks to, it is extremely frustrating to see curriculum and resources being diverted away from the classroom, away from instructional, academic education, and towards all of these political groups to the tune of $43 million just since 2022. These are resources that should be funneled back to our teachers, should be going back into the classroom, and instead they're being used for political organizations and to forward a political agenda. We're seeing more and more curriculum reflecting left-wing ideologies such as climate change, gender, sexuality, and not to mention what the leaders of these two organizations are doing out in public. You know, they're some of the biggest coordinators and ringleaders when it comes to these No Kings protests that we've been seeing across the country. And then Randi Weingarten has even been participating in some of these, like rallies for companies like Target, talking about how they're rolling back their DEI initiatives, things that have absolutely nothing to do with furthering education and making sure that our next generation is prepared for the world.
Since you mentioned Randi Weingarten, and again, a public figure, obviously she's the head of this teachers organization, our producing team went to just pull something from her X account, and apparently she's focused on President Trump, of all people. I mean, when you're in charge of children, you'd think maybe you could focus on students and improving education. But she says this: the way Trump is implementing tariffs are bad for the economy. Small businesses like these coffee shops are hurting because of Trump. And this is just one example, Alleigh. But, is there something that you feel is missing from some of these leaders when it comes to where priorities should really be?
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, just to continue on her point, if you want to talk about the economy, what's going to be really bad for the economy is when all of these kids graduate high school, try to get into college, graduate college, and they cannot function in the real world. They can't hold a job. They can't, forget academics. A lot of these kids, they can't make basic eye contact, hold conversations with adults because our teachers are not focused on the things that are going to prepare kids for the world. And that is coming as a directive from these organizations. The NEA this year in their handbook, we're talking about academic things like the Holocaust, for example. They can't even say that this was an event that was targeted against people of Jewish faith. They said that 12 million people were persecuted from, quote, various faiths. I mean, they're just erasing history. They're moving forward with these radical climate change agendas. They're not preparing students for the real world. 45% of seniors, this is according to the nation's report card, 45% of seniors this year aren't achieving basic math, and a third of seniors aren't achieving basic reading. I mean, that's just not acceptable. If there's $43 million to funnel into political movements and organizations, that should instead be going straight back into our schools, benefiting our teachers, giving them salary increases so that they can do their jobs, and benefiting students, providing materials for the classroom and making sure that they're in a position to be able to succeed in life and in the real world.
Yeah, I have a 16-month-old at home, and I am already nervous about what she may experience is years from now. And with that, reading a portion from what you mentioned, the 2025 National Education Association Handbook. So here's a direct pull quote saying, to your point, in order to achieve racial and social justice, educators must acknowledge the existence of white supremacy culture as a primary root cause of institutional racism, structural racism, and white privilege. Educators must also work to prohibit institutionally racist systems, unquote. Again, directly from the NEA 2025 handbook. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, of course. What's absent from that, and of course from their materials writ large, is how exactly they're going to educate students. There's this broad focus on all of these, social justice buzzwords. And again, students are failing. 45% can't achieve basic math skills. And they're focused on all the wrong things. In addition to what you just read, the NEA and AFT are also some of the biggest purveyors of the trans ideology in schools and pushing for men and boys to be able to access girls' sports locker rooms and spaces, and unfairness and things that are making sure that girls can't compete in a fair way and have privacy in their locker rooms and bathrooms. And these aren't like one-off issues. These are things that we're seeing across the country, red state, blue state, it doesn't matter. And the NEA and the AFT are some of the biggest organizations pushing this, and they have the greatest access to our students. Like, their influence is absolutely outsized, and they're spending it on all the wrong priorities.
Yeah, you're reminded, of course, how many hours a day students might spend in a classroom. You want to make sure that what they're being taught aligns with your viewpoint. And by the way, we cannot change our race or skin color here, children. But we can change test scores if we focus in on that.
Absolutely.
Alleigh Marré, thanks so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate it.